Hello all, this is Dr. Dave Maslach talking to you about reciprocity.com. The E is written with a 3, and in this particular video I want to talk to you about doing a PhD is a marathon, not a sprint. So if you don't know me, I'm an associate professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship, and I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There were so many people that helped me out that I wanted to pay the favor forward and help you out. So when most of us start a PhD program, we often view it as a sprint. So we do things that are very sprint oriented, right? So the sprint might be we're thinking that we can condense as much as we can within the matter of a year, and maybe we can get a couple of papers done within that matter of a year. Maybe we can get 10 papers done within a matter of a year, and we try to work as much as we possibly can. Many of us will work 80, 90, 100-hour weeks within that first year and do that continuously because we think if we can condense all of the effort that we can possibly do within that year, that we can actually we can speed up the process and we can get to the finish line that much quicker and get a much better job than what everybody else has, or we can beat other people to the market. The problem is with this approach is that you often will experience some sort of catastrophic event. No matter what it is, you're going to have some sort of catastrophic event when you're constantly sprinting. So it's like you're going 100% all the time with, so I want you to imagine this, that a good analogy is that you are a runner, right? So sprinters will sprint for a few seconds and then they'll take a considerable amount of time off to regain their strength, regain their energy, to not over-injure themselves. If they're going 100% all the time, they will tend to injure themselves or they'll wear themselves out. So instead, you have to have a mindset as if you are a marathon runner. And this is a completely different mindset where you are at a level that you're comfortable with running continuously and you train up to the stage where you're running continuously for 22 miles or for 40 kilometers, right, for a long time. And you have to train yourself up to that point where you're doing that. The other thing that you have to do is you have to do a tremendous amount of self-maintenance when you're doing that. So what you have to do is, you run with a group of people because it is really, really boring to run that long or, to be constantly going back to running repeatedly. Some people are really unusual and they can run, they could be a loner and do that for a long time. But most people need to run in a group. That's why it's really good to have these running groups in cities and you see them going in herds where there's a group of people that are all running together, is because it's fun to do that. And it sort of makes the job or the task or the difficult thing that you're doing a little more easier. The other thing that marathoners will do is that they do much shorter runs throughout the week, and then they'll have a run that is a long run. It might be on their weekend, and then they'll recuperate from that long run. So I want you to imagine doing your PhD in that sort of way, where there are moments where you have to do a lot of work, or there's moments where you have to dedicate a tremendous amount of time to something. But then you have moments after that where you recuperate from that particular thing. But most times you're doing a steady amount of work on a regular basis. So you're doing a steady amount of work, and then maybe that there's a conference or a journal article submission that you have to do. And so you have to dedicate a tremendous amount of work to that particular time, and then you kind of cut back so you can give your time rest, or you can give yourself rest and recuperation. So you can come back and you can be much more energized to do this. And the other thing to realize, if you are in a moment where you've done a tremendous amount of work, right? So it's like actually completing the marathon. People do not go back. Most people do not go back to the sort of running part of it immediately. They'll give themselves a week, maybe it's 2 weeks to recuperate so they can get back into it and feel comfortable with running again. And that's the way that I want you to sort of think about doing your PhD journey, is you want to have this sort of mindset where it takes a long time and you're building into a career So you're not necessarily doing the sprint. You have to do sprints sometimes, but you're sort of balancing things in a sense that you're keeping yourself in a constant, nice state of emotional rhythm, right? So that's the problem. So there's a couple of things that are going to happen if you get out of this state of not thinking of it as a marathon. And we all do this, right? We all go through moments where we're working really hard, or we just forget about things around us, and then we have to get pulled back. This is life, right? We're constantly doing this. So what's going to happen is that you're probably going to get a physical injury of some sort. I got a back injury. I pulled muscles and stuff of opening up doors. Like, who does that, right? Because I was sitting there for so long. You might get colds and flus very, very easily because you're not taking care of yourself. All of these things do happen. These sort of physical things happen. And I guarantee if you start a PhD program, the vast majority of you will have that of some sort of physical thing that will happen to you because you're sitting there a lot and you're reading a tremendous amount of material and you just kind of forget about things around you in terms of self-maintenance. So that self-maintenance in terms of a physical self-maintenance is very, very important. The other thing that ends up happening is that you have some sort of emotional or relational breakdown of some sort. A tremendous amount of people, when they're doing their PhD journey, as well as when they become professors, assistant professors, they have relational difficulties within the family. So they are, maybe they sort of forget about the spouse within the relationship. This is a family commitment. It is not, if you have a spouse or a partner, realize that this is a family commitment, that it's you working together towards this particular journey. It's not just you that's doing that. If you get this as, if you change the optimization sort of algorithm, instead of optimizing on your single performance as the PhD student, as the person that's going through this journey, on the sort of intellectual journey, and towards the family and trying to optimize on the family, you're going to make much, much better decisions as a family in terms of being able to tackle this thing. So which means sometimes you have to dedicate some time away from work to your spouse. Sometimes you have to dedicate some time with your family. Like last night I did homework with my kids. I sat down and we went through homework together and went through, spend a couple hours of going through that. And I know that that's time taking away from work, but it's also I'm making sure that the family is functioning properly. And I want you to think about it in that sort of way. And the other thing that ends up happening is not just the relational problems, and it's not just immediate relations, right? Like this could be your mother or father that you're interacting with. You're going to tend to ignore them. Don't do that. You want to invest some time into keep maintaining these relationships. The other thing that's going to happen is you're going to have emotional difficulties. We all go through these. It's really difficult. Absolutely everybody that's gone through a PhD journey and gone through this career goes through emotional difficulties because you're constantly comparing against others in terms of what other people are doing in their performance. And so you're always thinking that you're inferior because somebody else is always better than you, because maybe they started at a different time, maybe they have better capabilities than you, or whatever it is. So you're constantly getting beat up inside, and you're comparing against everybody. This sort of amorphous everybody, whoever that is, right? And it changes from day to day in terms of who your reference is. Guaranteed, if you fixed on one particular person, that might not be necessarily as daunting, right? And somebody that was really relative to what you're doing, and then that's not going to be as scary, and you're not going to go through those emotional journeys. But we don't do that. What we do is we sort of think of everybody around us as being better than us. And so we beat ourselves up tremendously. We go through a tremendous amount of negative emotions by doing that, right? And so I want you to actually practice sort of self-care in the sense that maybe if you do need to go see somebody, you go and talk to somebody. You go to the physician, you go talk to a counselor. or you find a friend that you can work with and keep working with on a constant basis, right? You want to invest in those kind of things in the long run to help you with the emotional support. This is really challenging. It's not just PhDs that go through this, but anybody in a creative endeavor goes through those experiences. It's really well known that most creatives beat themselves up because of this social comparison thing. So that's what I want you to come back to, is not view this as a sprint, right? So if you can sort of take it back just a notch. I'm not saying, don't work hard. I'm not saying don't put in as much effort as you can, but imagine yourself as, as a marathon runner, where you are maintaining yourself, and you're maintaining your pace over the long run, and you're gradually building up your skills in the long run. So instead of thinking that the sprint is going to be instantaneous, rather what you're doing is you're building up your capabilities over a decade, or maybe it's 2 decades, where you're constantly getting better and better and better until you become world class. That is going to be a much healthier way of doing it. And we all go through this experience, and most of us have to make these adjustments at some point in our career. So don't feel bad if you're making these adjustments, but just imagine yourself and take the time to really turn the strategy around, such that you are imagining yourself as a marathon runner rather than a sprinter towards a finish line. All right, so if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Do subscribe to the YouTube channel. Take care and have a wonderful day. Bye.